Unlike S, when experts make conscious decisions, these decisions may be different from their corresponding rules. Although the analogy contains all the required ingredients, it seems that one step is weaker than the others, the variation step. While biological variation originates from random mutations, the usual strategy of experts when striving to solve an unprecedented problem is not to try all possible mutations, at random, until one prevails. They rather apply more thoughtful considerations, favoring those directions which seem to offer better solutions. Brandon, 1994, contended that humans, unlike other species, act thoughtfully. Combining this idea with Penrose's, 1989, mentioned above, about humans' conscious non-algorithmic behavior, it may strengthen the concern that expert systems rules can only cover unconscious decisions by experts. However, one explanation is that the reason that experts' conscious decisions seem to be intuitive/tacit/non-algorithmic is because the experts do not know their algorithm, yet when experts make conscious decisions, or thoughtful, as Brandon would say, the fact that they cannot tell us how they did it, may suggest that at the moment of decision they made it unconsciously. So, there might be some underlying rules which cause the decision, although experts are not aware of them. This means that even conscious decisions may be governed by rules. We simply asked the wrong person. Brandon, 1994, contended that humans, unlike other species, act thoughtfully. Combining this idea with Penrose's, 1989, mentioned above, about humans' conscious non-algorithmic behavior, it may strengthen the concern that expert systems rules can only cover unconscious decisions by experts. However, one explanation is that the reason that experts' conscious decisions seem to be intuitive/tacit/non-algorithmic is because the experts do not know their algorithm, yet when experts make conscious decisions, or thoughtful, as Brandon would say, the fact that they cannot tell us how they did it, may suggest that at the moment of decision they made it unconsciously. So, there might be some underlying rules which cause the decision, although experts are not aware of them. This means that even conscious decisions may be governed by rules. We simply asked the wrong person. This difference between the human approach to solving unprecedented problems and nature's approach may indeed be regarded as, on the one hand, a gap in the analogy revealed in this paper and, on the other hand, a trigger for further research. For such research, two potential directions are recommended. 1. In the area of genetic algorithms, which currently imitate nature's approach by applying random variations when trying to find the best way to solve a problem, and the other in the post-Darwinian evolution theory itself, by seeking some hidden mechanism in the genes that reacts to problems which the species experience. I believe that such a mechanism which shortcuts the blind variation and selective retention process, by making it less blind, will make the evolution theory more comprehensive. The two suggested areas of further research may strengthen the analogy suggested in this paper. Nevertheless, there are much more important reasons for adopting them. In any case, the similarities between knowledge renewal, in life and in and evolutionary process were shown. We are ready now to turn to another area of resemblance, the inheritance process. Common process of knowledge transference from experts to the users seems to be very straightforward. The expert tells a knowledge engineer, K, all the details of his or her knowledge, then the K codifies the knowledge as rules in the knowledge base, KB, of the S. These rules are in the form of, if A, then B, when situation A occurs, the user should do B. This process of knowledge extraction from the expert and the use of it by the user are described in Figure 1. Knowledge transfer in expert systems. The goal of knowledge transfer is to enable the non-expert to act as an expert, or to be regarded by the outside world, above the dashed line in Figure 1, as an expert. Adopting the Darwinian connotation, we may define the behavior of the expert as the phenotypic characteristics which should be transmitted to the non-expert, like an inheritance process, the upper arrow in Figure 1. This can be regarded as mimetic inheritance, using memes as the unit of selection. It differs from the original Darwinian inheritance only in that it is not between generations but rather between colleagues, but this is similar to any cultural evolution. This difference should not detract from the analogy. Mimelli, 2005, contended that even the use of the term inheritance for genetic transmission was always a metaphorical one. In his view, the reference by evolutionists, including Darwin himself, to the practice of parents giving property to their offspring to describe the like begets like phenomenon, should not mislead us in our research. In fact, knowledge transference and genetic inheritance seem to be closer than the original metaphor of gift of property, unlike the latter which involves the transition from one owner to another. In the knowledge case as well as the biological case, the donor remains in possession of the original property. Now, the next step is to examine how this inheritance mechanism is implemented in the knowledge is articulated as rules in the knowledge base, KB. Thus the rules in the KB are in essence the code representing an expert's behavior, just as genes are the code for the characteristics of any species. In other words, rules represent expertise, just as genotype represents phenotype. This relationship is shown in Figure 2. Knowledge transfer in expert systems. In the expertise inheritance process, the expert is asked to articulate his or her expertise. There is a hidden assumption in equating what we are doing with what we think or say we are doing, namely, that when we do things we can always tell how we did them. This assumption is found to be wrong. This is marked in Figure 2 in the gap between the expert's mind and the expert's words. This gap was recognized by various philosophers such as Polanyi, who argued that there is a distinction between practicing expertise and being able to explain it explicitly. The aim of a skillful performance is achieved by the observance of a set of rules which are not known as such to the person following them. Polanyi, 1958, 49. His conclusion: even in the modern industries the indefinable knowledge is still an essential part of technology. For this kind of indefinable knowledge Polanyi coined the term tacit knowledge. This is a rather surprising observation, as people naturally tend to assume that experts know the rules by which they practice their expertise. Examples include, the skill of swimming, a cyclist's balance, the touch of the pianist, flying, skiing, cooking and many others. It is very difficult for experts to shift their attention from doing what they are doing to being aware of how they are doing it. In many cases, they cannot do both at the same time. Polanyi, 1957, 1958. The point is that describing explicitly what one does requires different skills from just doing it. Polanyi, 1958, 88, summarize this phenomenon: I know that I know perfectly well how to do such things, though I know the particulars of what I know only in an instrumental manner and am focally quite ignorant of them, so that I may say that I know these matters even though I cannot tell clearly, or hardly at all, what it is that I know. Polanyi, 1957, also quoted Gauss: I have had my solutions for a long time but I do not yet know how I am to arrive at them. Proclaimed experts will have earned their title not on account of any skills of articulation they may have but because of their practicing skills. Yet, the whole process of knowledge transfer relies heavily on the ability of experts to describe what they do, something in which they are not experts at all. Polanyi, 1958, 88, summarize this phenomenon: I know that I know perfectly well how to do such things, though I know the particulars of what I know only in an instrumental manner and am focally quite ignorant of them, so that I may say that I know these matters even though I cannot tell clearly, or hardly at all, what it is that I know. Polanyi, 1957, also quoted Gauss: I have had my solutions for a long time but I do not yet know how I am to arrive at them. But after our conclusion that knowledge transfer resembles inheritance in evolution, this difficulty is not so surprising. Determining the underlying rules from the behavior of the expert is similar to determining the genetic structure from the phenotypic appearance. Just as the latter is not likely to succeed, we should not be surprised about the tremendous challenges that are encountered in expertise transference. Another challenge was pointed out by Mameli, 2005, in his view, simple DNA copying is not sufficient for transmitting the full phenotypic behavior which is influenced by the environment and culture in a non-genetic way. Knowledge transference resembles the same phenomenon. The rules must be interpreted in the context of the original environment when they were coded. As this environment is not part of the rules themselves, following them may produce wrong results.